People have asked me, what did Erin Gruwell do to reach you guys? Throughout the years, in one way, shape, or form, people wanted to know, like, what did she do? What made her different? What made her so effective with you guys? How did that woman reach you guys in the inner city of Long Beach? And they're asking the question because they want to know, how did this white lady from a world that's completely different from yours enter into your world and help you guys turn your grades around and graduate and go to college and all that stuff? What did she do? How did she make that difference? Because I want to be that kind of teacher. I want to be that kind of speaker. I want to be that kind of preacher. I want to be that kind of person, man, who helps others turn their lives around. So can you help me understand what she did so that I can do that too? I woke up this morning at 3:30 this morning inspired. It's 5 o'clock and in the morning, and I'm on my deck inspired to create this video for you because I had an epiphany that brings together what I experienced in Erin Gruwell's class, that brings together my dissertation research, that brings together my work on the road for 25 years of working with students myself and helping them turn things around, of working with teachers and help, man. So anyway, I got some fire for you today. And so tune in if you're a teacher, an educator, a speaker, a preacher, someone who wants to make a difference in the lives of others, because this is going to bless you. All right, so let me give you some context. I was in, I grew up in Long Beach, California. We had a lot of death, a lot of gang violence in the early 90s, drugs, tension between Crips and Latino gangs and Asian gangs. And we had, I think it was 150 murders just that year alone when I was living there, on the east side of Long Beach, California. And the Los Angeles riots erupted when 4 cops were acquitted for beating Rodney King up on camera and brutalizing him. And a lot of us in the inner city of Long Beach in Southern California had been mistreated by so many cops, but there were no cameras. There was no evidence that we were being mistreated. Man, I was being put face down on the ground just for walking through a nice neighborhood, and a cop put his foot on my back and made me lay face down on a curb while white people walked by looking at me like I was some criminal. And I was just minding my business. And so I grew up in an environment where we're from, a lot of the police were seen as the biggest gang in our neighborhood. There were Crips, there were Bloods, and there were the police. And now hear me, I know there are a lot of great cops now. I've met wonderful police officers, law enforcement officers, and I have so much respect for so many of the people who put their lives on the line to protect and to serve. So this is not police bashing at all. I actually have so much respect for them. But even within that, you got, where I'm from, there were still so many cops, man, who abused their power. And in the midst of that, the Rodney King footage comes out, and these cops get acquitted for beating him up on camera. And we're like, we believe that surely, since this has been captured on camera, finally some of these cops, these crooked cops, are going to be held accountable. Finally, we're going to get justice. Finally. And so when they were acquitted, man, we were outraged. And it was so heartbreaking to see that even if a black man is getting beat up on camera, that the cops who did it are going to get away with it. And that killed part of my hope. When justice dies, hope dies. And when hope dies, bitterness and hatred is born. And so it's out of that I was so bitter and so angry. And so many of us were. And we're out there just breaking stuff, breaking windows, just angry. Not justifiable in the sense that we were just tearing stuff up and tearing businesses down because we were just angry. Not okay now as I look back, but it was the natural response to the hopelessness and the outrage we felt for the injustice that we had observed. So while we were out there, this little white woman in Orange County, she sees the news And she turns on the news, and a reporter refers to those of us who are out there as animals. They're out there looting like animals, like they're wild animals. And she asked herself, she says, what would make perfectly reasonable people behave like that? Why are they so angry? Why are they so mad? And she admits that she grew up sheltered. She admits that she didn't grow up in the inner city, so she didn't understand, but she wanted to understand. And she kind of came to the place where Dr. King said, violence is the voice of the voiceless. It's the language of the unheard. What is it that America's failing to hear from these young black and brown boys? Victor Hugo said, he who is guilty is not only the one who commits the crime, but also the one who created the darkness. And so I think she reasoned that it's possible that these young people are merely responding to the darkness into which they were born. I don't know why they're out there, and I don't know why they're so angry, but it's clear that they have no hope. And so I want to be a teacher to them. I want to be a teacher to the kids who feel like there is no hope. I want to be a teacher to kids who feel like they have no future they can call their own. I want to be the kind of teacher that empowers these young people to overcome the circumstances that they were born into, to build something out of themselves, to build a meaningful life for themselves. I want to give them hope. I want to help them overcome all of this to become more than what they've been exposed to. And so this woman she starts the credentialing program, and she becomes a student teacher, and they assign her to my classroom at Woodrow Wilson High School. And she walks into our class clueless. She shows up with this cheerleader alacrity, and she's all happy, and she was a cheerleader in high school. She's all happy, but she learned quickly that when she tried to introduce her syllabus to us, Shakespeare, Chaucer, Hemingway, Frost, all the stuff that was on her syllabus, and my boy like throws the syllabus at her as a paper airplane, and she quickly learned that her normal was not our normal, that her cultural universe was not culturally universal. What she experienced is what I have found to be I call it the breakdown. She went through a disequilibrating experience that broke down her assumptions about us and about herself and about the world into which she had just entered, right? She went through an experience in the beginning that disturbed her equilibrium. And that breakdown led to her realization that her normal is not our normal, and it gave her an awareness that many of us had been going through things, living through things, enduring things that she knew nothing about, and what we had been living through was radically, drastically different from what she grew up in. And so that realization led to this humility. She took on the posture of a learner. She decentered herself and realized that we at the time didn't have the capacity to enter into her world. And so she humbled herself and took on the posture of a learner and entered into our world as a servant leader. And she humbled herself. And I call this incarnational humility. She took on the form and the flesh of a servant, just like Jesus. And then she had this desire, this drive. It was like she almost had like this sense of calling, like I have to figure this out. She has this desire, this drive, this passion to try to figure out how to reach us, how to help us. And this is really, really important. So not only did she humble herself, not only did she have this desire to learn about us, she went through this season of growth. And growth involves really learning, not just having the posture of a learner, but actually learning, humbling yourself enough to actually listen, humbling yourself to actually drive through the neighborhoods that your students live in, humbling yourself enough to just listen to some of the things that they're going through, taking on the posture of a learner, not explaining away our experiences, not dismissing or discounting our perceptions of the world, just humbling herself and really listening and learning and studying us. And she began to study our family structures. She began to study our linguistic particularities. She began to study our assumptions about the world, our values. She began to study our music. She began to study the shows that we watched on television. She began to just observe how we dressed. She began to study our social interactions. She studied, and she began to understand us. And not only that, in the process of understanding us, she also developed a cultural self-awareness. And she was able to see the similarities and differences between her normal and our normal. And that's what cultural self-awareness is. That gave her the foundation to really engage with us. And so she took that understanding of us, of herself, of our culture, of our cultural universe, of our linguistic particularities, of our music, of our media influences, and she used that to build a bridge between her content and our context, between her curriculum and our culture. And so she starts bridging the gap between content and context. And we're leaning in because now for the first time, we're seeing ourselves in her curriculum. What Erin Gruwell did embodies this bridge framework that I've come up with. She had a breakdown which gave her the realization that her normal is not everyone else's normal, which led to her having and adopting this incarnational humility, which also was accompanied by this desire to grow, this desire to learn. And then there was the growth stage, BRIDG, this growth stage. She learned about us, and in the process, she learned about herself. And that learning, that growth, laid the foundation for her to engage with us by contextualizing her content for our context. She built a bridge between her content and our context. And that led to her really developing intercultural competence, the perception of cultural others, that you can speak and behave in ways that they perceive as effective and appropriate. We saw her as effective and appropriate. She had goals, she had objectives, and she achieved them in a way that didn't violate who we were as people. She didn't disrespect our culture, our normal, but she understood it and honored it and used it in order to reach us. And that led to us trusting her, that led to us receiving from her, that led to us loving her, and it led to her helping us change our lives. It led to us taking responsibility for our circumstances through journaling, through decision making, through our habits, through the friends we hung out with. And many of us graduated from high school and went to college and even got PhDs and are doing very, very well. What did Erin Gruwell do to reach us, to help us, to empower us? She embodied this bridge framework that I just shared with you. Isn't that good? Oh, isn't that good? Oh man. And so there's so much more I can say about this. And I'm thinking about getting back out on the road, man, and sharing some of this in more detail and bringing it to life for people who really want to learn and grow. This is transformational. This is radical. And I can't tell you how many other people have embodied this framework that I've discovered in my dissertation. What I've just shared with you is really the findings from my dissertation, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I just want you to know that you as an educator, you as a speaker, you as a preacher, you have the power to build a bridge into the lives of the people you want to reach if you're willing to go through this process. All right. I'm your friend, Dr. Manny Scott, and I'm just grateful that you watched this video. Please like and subscribe. I got so much more I want to share with you, and I look forward to doing it. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll check in later.